Welcome to Not Ashamed. I'm your host, Ashley Nordman, and today I'm here with my friend, Brian. Brian, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to chat today. I know that we're going to be talking about a really fun topic, which is cannabis, all things cannabis, which honestly, after having a little conversation with you before we started recording, I would never see you as someone who is even in that industry. Like, you're so composed and like put together and professional, and not that it's not a professional thing, but I think sometimes it has like a weird reputation. So I'm interested to hear like how you got into all of this.
Yeah, well, I get that a lot, believe it or not. And then, when you talk to some other folks and they find out that I used to grow and sell cannabis, they're pretty surprised and consulted on it. But yeah, happy to go into whatever you want to know about the journey, what brought me there, anything really. So
yeah, I want to know all the things. Like, I literally want to know everything about you. Like, where did this, well, first of all, you're a businessman, you're an entrepreneur. How, like, what got you into this field, and like, how did that transpire? I know you said, we had talked a little bit before we started recording, and like you had done something in school with this, and then it kind of evolved into where you're at. So tell me your story.
Sure. Well, if I was going to go to the genesis, I would say, I was working a professional job like a lot of folks, financial software consulting. And, I'd be home, and after a long day, I'd enjoy cannabis. And I started just becoming a little bit more introspective. And, after thinking about life more, I asked if I was happy, and I said I wasn't. So I left the, relatively stable and successful job from downtown Austin, and I left to travel the world. So traveling the world, I would meet up with people and I'd share cannabis with them. And I realized how cannabis really can connect people with one another. And over time, I decided to get an MBA when I was living in Germany, being half German. And I wrote my master's thesis using a neoclassical economics model to conduct an industrial analysis of the Colorado cannabis industry.
Oh, okay. Very cool. So how did you end up in Germany? Like, was this after college?
Yeah. Well, I was born in Germany. I'm half German. My mother's German. It just made sense when you look at the cost of an MBA in the United States, and then in Germany, you're like, oh.
Wait, is it way cheaper?
Yeah.
No way.
Free in some places, but for me, I did an English program.
Okay.
So that was about, I think 9,000 euros altogether.
I don't even know what that would equate to, but it doesn't sound like as much as what I paid for my school.
It's about 9,000 American dollars, give or take. So
what?
10,
okay, I would go over there too if I could save $150,000 on my schooling. That's awesome. Okay, so you went to school there, you did your thesis on this, and all the while you were sharing your love for cannabis with people and started realizing like how much it helped people socially and how it helped people like become more introspective, things like that. Did it help you with, did you have any like what made you want to start using cannabis? Were you stressed? Were you anxious? Like, were you dealing with something where you were like, okay, this is an outlet for me that can really help me?
Yeah, well, I think in some German culture, it's not really stress or anxiety. It's just, you're thinking about the future and you have to get it done. But looking back at it, yeah, that's probably stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
And, I'll never forget, the first time I used cannabis, I was in my early 20s. The second time I tried it once in high school, bad experience, or I was guilty. I felt very guilty at the time. But in early 20s, really when I tried it, and I was more relaxed, and I couldn't believe how just elevated I felt. And I think realizing that and meeting other people and seeing how whenever they would smoke cannabis or consume cannabis, it would really just provide that same kind of relief, so to say.
Okay. So it was like you enjoyed the relaxing feeling of it, which, we're in a stressful world. So obviously if there's something you can do to shut off that's healthy, that's something that comes from the earth, like that's a win-win in my book. So I totally relate. And I was like you, I tried cannabis in high school a couple times and had really bad experiences because I didn't know what I was doing. And I would like take this big bong hit or something and I'd be just like so messed up. And then I learned when I got older, it's like, okay, like everything in like doses here, and I started realizing like consuming less, but like just taking it in like for like more therapeutic reasons versus like trying to get messed up. Like that was where I realized, oh, I actually enjoy this and it's not this scary experience. But I think when you first get around it, like maybe it's just because you don't know what you're doing or you just feel the pressure or you want like, you know, you're a high schooler and you're just like, yeah, I want to get messed up. And it's like, that's not the point of this though. It's to like, just like take a small amount, like get some relief. Like maybe I'm wrong here, but for me, like that's where I feel like I notice the benefits is when it's just like something I'm taking like therapeutically to like relax.
Very much. And you actually touched on that. The medical term is called titration. And that's where you incrementally take in cannabis.
Okay.
You know, taking a bong hit for your first go around, that might be a bit overkill.
Yes, it was.
But that's the thing about cannabis as well is, you know, there's a very wide array in application. I mean, yes, cannabis can very much be a social thing where you're with a group of people and you just want to relax and connect with one another. Cannabis also has medicinal purposes. You know, the reason why cannabis went from, well, it was originally legal and then in the 30s it was made illegal.
Wait, it used to be legal? Before,
yeah.
I mean, now it's like, you know, we'll get into that. But
sure,
before it was illegal, it was legal back in the day.
Yes.
That's really wild. Okay, so when you're talking about like consuming cannabis, like what, I know there's like many forms and like I live in Missouri and it's legalized here. It just became legalized in, was it January of this year, I think? If not, I mean, you could get it like last year with like a medical card, but now you can have it here recreationally. You can just go into a place, show them your ID, like get whatever. And I know they have gummies and pens and like, what do they call it? Bud? Is that what you call it?
Flower,
bud.
Edibles.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many, there's topicals, there's like so many things. So do you have one you prefer or like, do you feel like there's different things for different reasons? Like what, you seem like, you know, obviously an expert in this field. So I would love to know, okay, what do you think edibles are great for? What do you think flower is good for? Like, you know, can you break that down for me?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, I'll try not to go too deep into it because I could talk about it for a while. But, you know, for example, along with consuming THC, you also have something called terpenes. And terpenes are the aroma that, you know, a plant gives.
Yeah.
And terpenes, depending on the terpene, for example, something like limonene, the terpene, that actually provides more of an awakening effect, an alert effect. So you can get some additional items that people would refer to as the entourage effect from flower. You know, there's other things you can do as well. You know, personally, I've smoked a decent amount of flower in my life. And it's, even though there's some medicinal benefits of cannabis, if you're still lighting something on fire and smoking it, it's not necessarily the best for your lungs. Now, of course, there's a conversation about, you know, how often you do that.
Right.
But if, you know, some people are doing it on a daily basis, it's not really the best for the lungs. So, you know, I decided also it's probably better and it's healthier to switch something towards more that's edibles, something of that nature. So
I'm actually glad that, I mean, I'm glad overall that it's legalized, but I think it's so helpful for the safety aspect because now people can get their hands on it and it's more regulated versus like before it was just kind of like a black market thing and you never knew what you were getting yourself into, where now like you actually know what's inside what you're purchasing and things like that. I know like here in Missouri, a lot of my like friends or if I'm out, I see a lot of people like they like smoking like the pens or whatever because they're not having to like actually, you know, light something or go outside and do it. They can just be like socially hitting their pen or whatever it might be.
Sure. Yeah, it's very discreet. And again, it just preaches to, you know, we do need some form of regulation. You know, even with food, there needs to be some form of regulation. It just needs to make sense though.
Right. So do you feel like dispensaries are a safe place to get any type of cannabis or how do you feel about that? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I worked at a dispensary. I can tell you that, you know, I mean, of course, it depends on the dispensary. You know, there's some dispensaries that take, you know, COAs more serious than others.
What's a COA?
A certificate of analysis.
Oh, okay.
So that's when they, for example, you know, say you buy, let's say you buy a drink, a beverage, or, you know, flour, anything really. There needs to be laboratory testing that's performed. And with that laboratory testing, it breaks down, for example, you know, what's the pesticide count, yeast, mold? For example, are there heavy metals? So it's just important to do that because, you know, that's a part of the growing process as well. When I used to grow cannabis, you had to have some strict measures that you don't do certain things that would increase the amount of pesticides, because at the end of the day, people are consuming this.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want to have like Roundup in your weed. So,
No.
yeah. Well, that's
No,
reassuring. I'm
definitely
glad
not.
that there's like processes here and they're making sure that it's like clean and safe. And I think that gives people peace of mind, especially if they're like nervous about it, because it seems so like taboo still. Like it's a newer thing that hasn't been legal for very long in very many states. So I'm glad, again, that it is becoming more recognized. And that's why I really wanted to talk to you today, because I know there's a lot of benefits that come from cannabis.
It can help with spasticity. So if you have, for example, a tense muscle, it can actually help relax the muscle. It can help prevent seizures. It can, there's a long list of things it can do. So there's really a large array of medicinal applications with cannabis.
Do you feel like there's anything it can help specifically with women?
Sure. Being a man myself, I don't know what it's like to be a woman, but I will say, and that's okay too. But I will say, of course, there's a lot of very fine women that I've worked with in the cannabis industry, and it's very normal every month for a woman to go through the menstrual cycle, and there can be a lot of pain. Having grown up with a sister, I could tell when there was, times when she was in a lot of pain or just not in a good mood.
You're like, okay, she's crabby today. Something's coming. Yep.
I was like, oh man.
You just like go hide in your room. You're like, okay, it's that time of month. I'm gone. Bye.
Yeah. So
you're telling me it can relieve PMS and help women be less bitchy. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah. You said it, not me, but yeah, it's absolutely. And, it's funny because, one of my coworkers I'm thinking of particularly, and she's like, yeah, I feel less likely like killing somebody today. And
that's good.
Yeah. So cannabis can save lives.
Cannabis can save lives. You heard it here first. Ladies and gentlemen, get you some cannabis. It might help your woman or yourself with not wanting to rage out on everyone.
Yeah. So
that's really interesting though. But I believe that because I'm sure like obviously cannabis can help with inflammation and like pain. Like a lot of people take it for pain. My mother used it when she was overcoming cancer and had her breast removed and everything. She was in a lot of pain. So it helped her through that versus like relying on opioid medications that are highly addictive. And I just remember like it helping so much with her pain. So it makes sense that it would help with women when they have pain every month when they're dealing with, irregular cycles or whatever they might have. PMS in general can not be fun. So if anything can relieve it, that's a plus in my book.
Oh, I agree. I think, and you mentioned with opioid medications, and that's another big application of cannabis in the sense that, the pharmaceutical industry, they do provide valuable medicine. But also, when you hear about things like Purdue, where they produced OxyContin and then they got doctors to overprescribe OxyContin, where literally, hundreds of thousands of people have overdosed from it.
Right.
And they're trusting their doctors. There's a huge conversation to be said about pharmaceutical industries and how much they try to push their medicine. And if you can reduce dependency on something like an opiate, like OxyContin, and you can use cannabis as a substitute, yes, yes, please.
Absolutely. Always a win. I feel the same way. And I'm definitely afraid of like pain medication. And I think in the future, if I ever had a surgery or like needed something, I would love to try like an alternative instead of that, because I think there's a lot of awareness now too, where people understand like the real risks that come with that, because you hear people that have a surgery, get medication, and then they become addicted. Like it can be so highly addictive for some people. And I feel like that's why like cannabis is a nice alternative, because it doesn't, in my opinion, I don't feel like it gives you that like addictive piece where you like can't live without it. Like obviously there's people that enjoy it and they like the feeling of it, but that's different than feeling like you can't function without taking it.
Yeah, so I can tell you from firsthand experience, there was a time when I was using cannabis every single day. When I stopped cannabis, the worst thing that happened would be that I would be irritable for about couple of weeks, 2 weeks, a month. My sleep wasn't as good, or you wake up with night sweats. That happens if you consume cannabis every single day.
Okay.
But if you compare that to people that literally are going through withdrawals, with alcohol or opiates, where they're shaking, where, I think some people can even die through withdrawals with
Yeah.
opiates. You compare one and the other, and I'll take being a little irritable compared to the other.
Yeah, same. Absolutely. And I'm sure it's because it's like it's a natural thing, you know, so it's easier for your body to wean off of that than something that's like a pharmaceutical, I can't think of the right word, processed kind of thing that is foreign to your body.
Yes, yeah, very much, very much.
Okay, so I want to know more about your company because I've heard a little bit about it, but I want to hear from you. Like, what is the cannabis company that everyone needs to hear about?
Well, I'm thrilled. Thank you very much. So this goes back to my experience with cannabis. So I think I told you that I grew and sold cannabis, but I also consulted on cannabis in over 10 different states throughout the US. I've spoken at international conferences. And one of the big things that I've seen is there's a big trend with hemp beverages. And I think to take a step back and talk about cannabis, there's marijuana and then there's hemp.
Okay.
Now, hemp and marijuana, they're in the same family. They're the same plant. It's just a different species, so to say. The only difference between hemp and marijuana is an arbitrary percentage of THC. So if it's 0.3% THC or less, it's hemp.
Okay.
If it's above, it's marijuana.
So is CBD hemp?
So hemp does produce CBD, but really the only way to classify hemp or differentiate that is THC percentage because, THC is the psychoactive component of cannabis.
Right. Okay.
But it still is naturally in hemp. So another big difference is the 2018 Farm Act legalized hemp. So you can actually have a hemp beverage with hemp-derived cannabinoids, THC, CBD, and as long as it's less than 0.3% by weight, it falls under hemp. And it's legal. And not just legal on a statewide basis, like a lot of states with marijuana. It's federally legal because marijuana is still federally illegal. Technically, marijuana is still on the same schedule. It's Schedule 1. It's the same as heroin or meth.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It really is ridiculous.
So what I'm very excited about was I thought, well, there's a big trend with hemp beverages. It's federally legal. And what I want to do is I want to take the experience I've had with cannabis, with marijuana over several years, and I want to apply everything I learned to make the best product I can make. So with all that said, I produced a beverage called Vitam. It has hemp-derived cannabinoids, so THC, CBD. So, it's if you drink enough of it, you're definitely going to feel high and you're going to enjoy yourself.
Wait, really? So are there any other drinks like this on the market?
There are actually. I'm not the first one.
Okay.
But what I am doing that's differently is I'm putting vitamins and minerals in my beverage.
Okay, so is it like a multivitamin or is it just like a healthy drink that also gives you nutrients?
It's a drink that gives you nutrients.
Okay.
So it's a healthier alternative to alcohol. So the idea being is,
okay.
Yes, well, I look at it this way. It's just, a lot of people, sometimes they have to really make a decision with, okay, I'm either going to be social, but I'm going to pay for it because I'm drinking alcohol and I don't want to drink alcohol, but I don't want to be alone. I want to go out. The next day they're hungover. Or I'm just going to stay in and I'm not going to drink. But now I'm not hanging out with people. And so what I want to do is I want to provide people a non-alcoholic alternative to be able to still go out, socialize, have fun. And I'm really proud of that. Actually, I'll show you. This is the can design I have for Vitam, as a matter of fact.
Oh, I love that. That is so cool. I definitely need to get my hands on this because it looks like a really great, healthy alternative, like you said. And like, I don't really drink a lot. And I just do it socially, but it's like, this would be so nice to have like an alternative where you feel good and you can just feel like relaxed and you're pumping your body with good things.
Yeah. And you get some vitamins and minerals because, going back to talking about perspective and being in different countries, the American diet, it's terrible.
Yeah.
We eat very unhealthy food, and it's also a part of what the government allows for people to eat. If you go to Europe, there's a lot of food from the U.S. that's not allowed, and I think that just speaks more about we have a natural system where it's not very much nutritional. Average American diet, people are deficient in many vitamins. So I thought, yeah, why not just let people go enjoy themselves and actually get some vitamins while they're at it. I'm not going to say that this is, the cure to cancer. I'm not going to say that if you drink several vitamins, you're going to live to be 100. I'm not going to be one of those companies, but I think it's more of a common sense, practical approach. If I have a vitamin, I can go out and be social and I get some nutrition. I'll sleep well and I'll wake up fine the next day.
Yeah. I love that. So can you drink multiple of them or like
Sure.
Yeah. And that's fine. You can have a couple.
I dosed a vitamin. So, and this actually goes back to the conversation we had at the beginning where you mentioned where, if you take a bong hit, and it's just really overwhelming. I dosed vitamin to be about the same as a beer. Now it depends on every individual, how they take in cannabis with their body. But if you're like, people don't have to worry about drinking one of my vitamins and, just being completely, high and gone. It's not designed for that. It's designed for people to have several if they'd like, to sit together, to enjoy their time with one another.
Okay. I love that. So where will it be available? Like, would it be available everywhere or only in certain states, or how does that work?
Sure. Well, I'm starting in the DFW area and expanding out within Texas. But that's for distribution. What I will have is direct to consumer. So people can go onto my website, thevitam.com. And they can order Vitam and it can be mailed to them. And again, this is a federally legal beverage. It's federally legal because it's hemp. So people don't have to worry about, am I doing something wrong? No, it's perfectly fine.
Perfectly fine, perfectly safe, not illegal, not going to make you stoned.
If you have a lot, yeah, sure.
But, if you drink a whole 12-pack, maybe, but.
Well, it depends on the person. But, and I think for me, what I also just really care about promoting with my business as well is, I'm no different from everyone else. I want $1 million, who doesn't? But I also want to build a business where I feel it's providing a contribution to society. And one of the big issues I've also noticed in our society today is people are just incredibly lonely.
They are.
And that's okay. Like it's okay to admit that. But, if you go to other countries, I'll never forget at 2:00 in the morning in Spain, you'll see people that, they're together. They're drinking, they're eating, they're having fun, there's laughing, there's little kids at 2:00 in the morning, little kids and grandparents, and people are just together. And, you look at so many other countries, there's more community. And in the United States, we just don't have that level of community and we're suffering from it. And I think the pandemic is a great example.
I think you are so right. Even when I look at how I grew up until now, when I grew up, I felt like our neighborhood was this huge community and like everyone knew each other and we always hung out together. And then as I got older, it just became less and less and less. And then now I live in an entirely different state. And like I built a house in like a very small community here. I barely even know the neighbors to my left and right that I see every day. And like, I want that community. I like crave and miss that, but I just see how much different our culture is now. It used to be so involved and now it's like everyone's kind of like on their own little island doing their own thing. And I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's good for us. I think that community feel is obviously like so important for your mental health, for anxiety, for, I don't know, there's just like something to be said about having actual physical people there with you going through things versus you being alone. Like you feel that difference, and it like helps take your mind off and it's like a point of like relaxation. And so I think it's really cool that you're creating something too that can like outside of the benefits like that are in the can, it's also bringing on like a cultural change, hopefully, where it's like inspiring people to like want to do things as a community together, especially the people that maybe don't want to drink or feel like they have to drink and like don't want to put themselves in those places. And now it's like they have, something they can drink and still feel good and want to be social. I love that.
Very much. And this is for me a wellness product because again, it's not just the vitamins and the minerals. It's wellness because you're spending time with people. You're making those connections. And it's gotten to such a point because of the pandemic as well that we had our Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, last summer in 2023 in the summer, he published a report called The Epidemic of Loneliness. And people are spending on average about 20 hours a month less with social connections. So that's 5 hours a week less. And he's equating that to loneliness is roughly the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Wow.
Yeah, it's in his report. So for me, this is very much saying, yes, I want people to connect with one another. I think a way to describe it would be, in American society, it's, hey, let's grab a beer, meaning let's catch up. What I want it to transform to is, hey, let's grab a Vitam, let's connect. And I just want people to spend more time together, have a healthier alternative, a better alternative. And I just want to see people enjoy their lives more, because it's too much stress in the US. We work so much and we're alone all the time, and we need more human interaction.
Yeah, and I think you're a great example of someone who has seen it all. Like, you've been to all these cultures. So if you're telling me that we work too hard and we're not socializing enough, I'm going to believe you, because it sounds like you've seen a lot of places. You've literally lived in Germany. You were born in Germany. Like, you know what it's like on the other side of this world and how differently people live. And I definitely have felt this feeling in my heart for a long time, that there are just so many people, especially in America, like struggling to find a community or to even socialize like we used to. And I just think like bringing awareness to that and trying to create like some sort of change in that whole aspect of things is really, really cool. And it reminds me of just like when you said, when you first started noticing like how cannabis brought people together, like you loved that it brought that like community. And that, I'm excited. I'm going to definitely try it, and I'll report back, and I'll at the very least share about it on my social media, because I share way too much on there anyway. So I'll share my real experience with it, because I feel like I'm going to end up really, really enjoying this, because I'm someone who needs all the relaxation I can get. and,
Sure.
And I'm kind of a health freak too, like you. So I just feel like it fits in alignment with my lifestyle as it is. And I just like love supporting people like that. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I own a skincare line, and I know how important like word of mouth is, and loyalty, and building a community, and having like really strong values. And it sounds like these are all things that I like am in alignment with. So I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the future of Vitam.
I really appreciate it, Ashley. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being here today. And if people want to reach out or grab your drink, can you just let everyone know where to find you?
Sure. So there's the website, thevitam.com. If people would like to order it there. I also have an Instagram account called Vitam Community. So Vitam being short for vitamin, VITAM community. And, please feel free to follow me there.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Brian. And I can't wait for you to send me some Vitams to drink with my friends.
You have my word.
Awesome. All right. Well, until next time, thank you guys so much for listening. Be loud, be proud, and be shameless. Visit us at anskinbeauty.com to shop all of our medical grade skincare.